All right. Hey, Quants. Nice, quick, just going to do a quick video today. Nothing super specific. I haven't really got through the charts. I did see that there was quite a bit of, look like the mostly bullish price movement today. I didn't really look yet myself. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today is another kind of chart day. Um, I might actually go through a few more charts than what I typically go through, mostly because this week I've spent a lot of time just in the thick of writing some code. And when I do that, sometimes I tend to skip looking at the charts as thoroughly as I normally do. And so with that said, I want to make sure that I just go through the charts because it looks like there might be some interesting price action going on, and I just want to confirm and check that out. Before I get there, I just want to throw out a reminder that I've been publishing daily briefs. I'll probably continue to do these daily, and they're just kind of just basic market update things. And so again, in the context of doing GAN stuff and also astrology, mostly for just kind of a learning thing for myself to help keep me up to date. And again, I've mentioned in the past that most of this is AI generated. I've continued to refine the outputs as they've come through. The initial outputs would sometimes get repetitive, and so I do have them all here. I'll probably clean this up a little bit just so it doesn't turn into an infinite list here, and they get capped a little bit. And in any case, without getting into the development stuff that's always on my mind, I wanted to mention that the briefs have gotten better, and I think I've kind of dialed them in to a point where I'm quite liking some of the details that come back from that in terms of things that either, I might already be familiar with, but it's a good reminder from a GAN perspective or some from an astrological perspective, which is things that I don't usually do. Or haven't historically done, but I just find interesting. I found some value in the details coming back there, if nothing else, just from an educational standpoint. So what I would suggest is if you're interested in what this stuff looks like, you can go to the Quantum Alchemy website. These things usually get posted around 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. It really depends on how my day is going because I don't want to just shoot these out since they're AI generated. I read them myself. Most of the time I do need to make minor corrections. A lot of times that's just formatting corrections, not so much content corrections before I publish them. And so in any case, you can come in here and you can see, I would suggest looking at these top ones so that you can get an idea of what the more recent ones are going to look like. I'll just click on one here. It's going to have kind of a intro to the market and how that's been. It will always output the S&P 500, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, and then it will pick up 3 other assets that have been moving or have maybe had some news, and so it'll put those in there. So these ones, again, just AI generated as equities, assets, because they're not always equities, obviously. There's a ton of crypto there, so just assets of note. And so financial news will be here, and these are just like quick reads, right? So the idea is this is not going to likely replace, if you have a very thorough flow, this isn't intended to replace that. It's just kind of high level overview. GAN seasonal dates, if there is one, which doesn't happen all the time. Obviously, there's only a few times in the year when that happens. There will be some information here about that. Planetary aspects, there is always something here depending on what planetary aspects are going on. Moon phase stuff. And then this is the part really towards the bottom that I've been finding most useful myself is the GAN lesson. And so the GAN lesson, the way this is intended to work is it is intended, and I've instructed the AI to use something unique every time. So it did get to a point where it kind of got to the point for a little bit there. If you had been reading these, it was like the same thing over and over again for about a week. I'm reading these again, and so I noticed that, and I just prompted it to make sure that it's doing unique stuff. So there's only so much GAN stuff out there, but I am interested to see how far this goes. For the last week, it's been generating some pretty interesting information. And then there's a latter example, which actually happened as an accident. I wanted to have it couple when there was something happening of note that was related to like a GAN kind of methodology or ideology and an astrological event. I wanted those to be kind of highlighted, like, hey, this is going to kind of be a big deal because it's going to be both of those at the same time. Well, the AI, and I pointed some out and I said, in the latter example, you need to highlight that. And it totally misinterpreted that. And it started giving a ladder example for how you apply GAN stuff, which at first was very, I was like, that's kind of useful because it gives you like step by step, like look at the date. Is there any, pivot point? Do your counts out from that date. It's pretty like basic GAN stuff if you've ever done GAN stuff, but it's actually really useful if you've never done GAN stuff. And so I kind of left that in there, and it got super repetitive with the other stuff. But since I've prompted it to start doing something a little bit more unique, I've actually found the latter examples to be kind of interesting this last week. So again, we'll see how far that continues to go. Obviously, I read them every day. It doesn't take me that long to read them. It's really if I have to make a little bit of formatting changes, which also usually doesn't take me that long, then I'll put those out. And so if that ends up, if I identify that as being repetitive again, then I'll prompt it to like start doing other stuff. And again, the goal is so that I'm feeding myself information, but you can come along on that journey, and this information is all right here for free. And so then the astrology lessons, I already mentioned that, and then it has the week ahead. And so this will give you a rolling week, right? So it pegged today, and then it kind of mentions next week stuff. So there is that. The other thing that I wanted to mention, because this was something else that I had put together, and I, again, a lot of this stuff is, in any case, the other thing that I put together here was this GAN seasonal date checker. Now, I don't know how much value this is because there's not that many GAN seasonal dates, right? So they have like the primary ones and then the midpoints. And so you can just know those, and hey, I'm only going to check this 4 to 8 times a year and be good with that. If you're actually reading the newsletters, you're going to find it in the newsletters or the news briefs. So that information was already there. But this is one of those things where I have AI suggest to me, hey, what can I do? And so it kind of threw together this concept, and I was like, that's interesting. Let me see what you can do. And so the idea is you can come in here, you can pick a date, and then it's going to tell you if it's close to a seasonal date or not. And so here it's outside of a seasonal date. If I go back to like February around this time frame, near a minor seasonal date. And so if you want to play with that, it's there. You get access to that through the GAN date checker in the bottom here. And so this really didn't cost me much to put together, but I thought it was just kind of an interesting, fun thing to play with. And I'll probably continue to add just nascent things to this website related to GAN and astrology that are related to those kind of things as they come up. So now that I've gone through all of that, let's go ahead and jump to the charts. So first thing, I just wanted to take a look at the economic calendar. We had the core PCE stuff come out, and so that really was just on forecast, and so nothing great there. And as I mentioned, I didn't look at the charts yet, so just jumping into the charts here. It looks like Bitcoin started to move up. We got that bounce off of the 21 EMA. I haven't shown this in a while. I have to update it, so I'm hesitant to put it in here right now because this is now wrong. We still have a valid bearish signal on the 200 SMA, 200 EMA, and again, this is correlated to the master strategy. The 200 cross has not happened, so again, bearish there. We have one thing which triggered a while back, and I think I mentioned it at that point in time. Was in early April that we had the 821 cross, and so just want to highlight, you can get chopped up a lot in sideways markets with trend system. However, this was a good example of when taking that signal, even though if you would have bought it on the day, you would have been buying here. You probably would have got it on the next day if you waited for the close. Well, it's Bitcoin, so of course you could have got in before then. But point is, I'm just going to use the closes. So assume you get in right here, you would have been setting kind of flat for about a week, and then price kind of went up a little bit. And so, you didn't get that nice juicy candle right there. But if you would have been following this trend, this diagonal trend line, which I've mentioned, there can be problematic sometimes to try and follow those, then you would have potentially got in there. If you would have been using, and again, I mentioned this also, that sometimes I like to use the Gann swing indicator as a more reactive indication or signal outside of just the trend following signals, because those can tend to be kind of slow. And so if you were using that, actually in this case, if you're using the 2-bar, if I just check, you actually would have been pretty close to where that was anyway. So probably no, unless you were actually using the 1-day swing, you would have got in a little bit earlier. But again, you got to pick and choose which kind of methods you're going to use, and then of course test those before you start using them. So anyways, all that said, still looks like we're just kind of ranging here. Hasn't totally lost price yet. We're going to need to see probably a drop. Yeah, so a lot of chop, and this is, again, I don't tend to use the 1-day swing indicator because can also be a lot of chop with that. But of course, you can definitely create strategies off of that. But we've got the 2-day swing here. If this closes here, we're still not going to get an upswing, but we do need to see it break above here. If it breaks above here, then I think we get that free path all the way up to the 200s here. If we break below this previous low, I think that's when there's a good chance we're coming back down to maybe get back into that range and potentially go a little bit lower. So just taking a quick look at Bitcoin there. Let's jump into, I had some crazy other things I was looking at here, which I said I might jump into. I'm not going to jump into, I don't know, I'm kind of curious. Let's take a look at some of these other ones. So, yeah, master strategy, MicroStrategy or strategy. Looks like there was a potential to get in there if you're just using the trend following system. Similar idea. That actually would have got you in maybe just a slight smidge above the 2-day swing if you're following that. And then things here still look like uptrend. Yeah. So just kind of waiting here. If it closes below that 155, then probably coming back down. Set looks, I mean, kind of similar to Bitcoin. Not too surprising there. Taking a look at Ethereum. Ethereum's just kind of been ranging here. So didn't look at the oscillators on the other ones, but I am here because I don't see anything else in price-wise. It just looks like it's kind of going sideways to down. So yeah, looks like yeah, if it starts to drop below here, below this previous swing, then yeah, probably not looking too great for Ethereum. I know I did hear people see some people talking about, and I don't remember the details, but I remember hearing something about some hack stuff happening. I don't think Ethereum itself was hacked, but I think there was some things, some double spend stuff. I think that was a Litecoin actually, but I don't remember what the relationship to Ethereum was that people were bringing up. But I think that was putting a little bit of pressure on Ethereum. So, any case, looks like, I mean, as it stands, even though we have the trends down, I mean, it's just kind of sitting sideways here, right? So nothing, I wouldn't expect any action around here unless it loses this last swing high. And then maybe even more importantly, probably is going to be this previous 2-day swing, in which case then it might start coming down a little bit harder. And if that happens, I would expect that to probably be correlated with Bitcoin doing a similar thing. Solana not doing anything, just setting sideways. But I mean, this is a big range of just setting sideways. So I mean, it's kind of interesting that it's setting out in this range. I mean, if I go back to, and again, I'm just kind of like, I didn't look at the markets today, so I just kind of want to do that. And I'm just doing that on stream. So it looks like we're kind of ranging for quite a while here between, 26 and 16-ish. So yeah, I mean, we got a, little bit, we're setting at a higher range now. Got that long kind of consolidation happening. Who knows if we'll see something like this. This one looks like it was kind of slowly bleeding out a little bit before it dipped. But when you're zoomed in, that's kind of hard to tell sometimes. This could look just like, similar, just ranging, right? And then you got that big drop. So who's to say if something like that will happen here and we'll get a big drop? I think with the way things have been kind of going in adoption, my general opinion is that we're probably just going to wait and see. Things look like they're generally basing out. Now, considering it is a midterm year, I would not be surprised to see things kind of like just a dump out. So sometime between May and July, and then people start to actually reaccumulate in September, October for crypto stuff, because that's just the way crypto tends to go. So I'm gonna burn through these charts again. A lot of the charts that I typically look at. Yeah, super high here on the oscillators, but it can stay up there for quite a while. Yeah, I mean, if you'd have got that, that would have been happy, right? So you got I think a lot of my positions, again, wasn't trading in and out of these positions. I did lighten up some of my positions when things were starting to turn down. I didn't let them all go, because something like this could happen, right? And so, anyways, 821 cross was keeping you in there. This one, with the exception of, is actually in the context of the master strategy, is mostly bullish. The only thing that you don't have here is the 200 EMA over the 200 SMA, and so I mean, you 75% bullish basically. Coin was looking just kind of based out there, so I'm just gonna skip down over that one. Let's see what else we're gonna look at here. Heard somebody say Google was going crazy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that looks pretty good. They got a big jump right there. So I think that was all on the earnings, right? Yeah. So it looks like they had the earning surprise. So yeah, looks like they had a pretty good earning report, and so people jumped in on that. I'm going to skip over that one. I'll touch on that one when I actually get to the actual gold one. So here, this is kind of interesting for looking at Meta. It took a pretty hard dip, but it is setting pretty close to this bigger support. One thing I will say, if I'm looking at stocks, I tend to look at a little higher time frame. So, I mean, kind of a hard play, because you've got these tests lower here, which you could see it totally do that again, but it is kind of looking like it's sitting on a support value here, so might not be a bad time to add to Meta. The other thing I would say is, technically it looks like it is in an unresolved trend here, but that's because we had this up and we didn't quite get this down. But if this gets broke below there, that's a long ways away. On the weekly time frame, we're going to see the trends turn down, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that, just in the sense that the 200s are down here, and it hasn't touched the 200s in a while. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this come down and touch the 200s sometime between now and the upcoming elections. So yeah, I guess this one would be cautious, but you could potentially take a position here with that looking like it's at support, with maybe you have yourself a tight stop there, so that you don't ride that down forever, or ride that all the way down to the 200s, because that could be yeah, it's a pretty big drop, right? 16.5% all the way down to like 26%. So I wouldn't want to catch that all the way, but again, doesn't look like it's potentially a bad position, considering everything was going up here. Oscillators just kind of, I mean, there's room for them to move up, but there's also, they're kind of in the middle here. So there's, I guess they are a little bit lower. So potentially a little bit more room for them to move up, but they don't always play that way, right? So they could go down too, because they're not super low either. So Microsoft taking oscillators, looks like they're coming down. So this candle looks good for maybe getting a little bit more upside, but it's getting held down on this the 8 EMA here. So yeah, this is kind of a tough one. If I were going to do something in here, I'd probably wait for a GAN signal, since if you miss the 821 cross here, which by the time that actually closed, you were pretty high already. Yeah, by the time you got that, it was a little bit late for the move, because that moved pretty hard. So I might wait for a GAN move, but yeah, pretty tough on that one, because even if you're looking at the daily time frame, you're probably only looking for around the 200s here. So I don't know, there's maybe a little bit in there, not a ton. NVIDIA, I mean, this could be interesting. It looks like it's, kind of setting above this basing level, and it came down, potentially retesting that to continue going higher. These things, again, can set high for a long time. I mean, the oscillators are high and they're kind of moving down. So, yeah, if you're not in this position, again, it's kind of a tough one to be in. I mean, you're setting on top here, so you could potentially take a position here and then just cut it if you fall back into the range. Let's jump on silver. Silver doesn't look that interesting to me. I don't see any, yeah, it doesn't look interesting to me right yet. Tesla, maybe getting above the 200s again here. I mean, you have the 200 EMA below the 200 SMA. You have the 821 cross. It's been kind of choppy here. So if it can get above these 200s and keep going, then that might look interesting. But otherwise, it's kind of hard here because it looks like it also is potentially setting, like potentially just bumping up against what was previous support, maybe turning that into resistance. So that one's a little bit tough. Take a quick look at gold. I mentioned that we got that touch of the 200s. That would have been, the traditional buy target for this master strategy, and that would have worked out pretty well. But right now it still looks like it's just ranging between there. So, nothing super interesting there. And I will take a last one. I'll take a look at is Apple. I wonder, that doesn't look like a great W bottom there, but that would be that'd be kind of crazy if we got a W bottom there and then we ended up getting a big extension off of that. I think, again, this is another one I'd probably look for where it's at. You might as well just wait for the break above and get your traditional Gann swing if you're going to do that. Otherwise, I think, it looks like it could just range for a while. It looks like what it might be doing is just setting up a big range here. So I don't think I want to jump in anything else. I'm going to pop at these, but I don't think I'm going to have a ton of comments. The Qs looked high. I mean, I think just because of the breadth of the market, that's not surprising. SPY was running up, and yeah, looks like it sold off a little bit today. If I drop down on smaller time frames, I wonder if it sold off at the end of the day or if it kind of held on for a little bit. Let's take a look at this. I'm just kind of curious how the market played that out. Yeah, it looks like it kind of peaked early and then just kind of sold off is what it looks like. I don't know if I have the right time zone on here. So looks like not great on the market close. People might not be trusting that over the weekend. I think that's going to be it for today. Oh, last one I want to take a look at. So we're just doing a bunch of market stuff. Is this, take a quick look at the VIX here and see where we are. Kind of dropped down a little bit. So, I mean, this could be good in the context of the VIX. If it's just going to kind of like range out here, this might be okay. Reduce some of that volatility and then get some people into positions without seeing the crazy volatility. But I don't know, it's a midterm election and we have all the Iran stuff going on and all that. So I don't know if that's going to actually happen. And you have May coming up. So we'll see if the sell in May go away, which also is a midpoint date around the 6th, I believe, of May. And so there could be, we could see some more volatility pick up then. So anyway, well, that was good. I got myself in it to look at the market today, and I'm going to get back to coding. So hope everyone is doing well out there, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace, quants.